Hey everyone, welcome to another 5-Minute Friday. This is Matt Palmer coming to you again, and I'm excited to jump into our next topic, which is building filters on reports. So so far in this series, this is the third 5-Minute Friday we've done on report building. We've covered how to set up a report type, how we can start to group our data together. And today is really going to be focused on how we can use the many array of Salesforce filter functions to really get specific on the data you're trying to access. So this is going to be a great session. And without further ado, let's jump in. All right, so resuming our conversation on report building, let's go ahead and take a deeper dive on filters. So in the report editor, this was the report we had set up in the previous sessions. And again, going back to the filter criteria, as we had reviewed in our last kind of grouping, our last meeting, the first options you will always have with report filters are this idea of all or my team. So you can segment by ownership. That will always be an option. And then there's always going to be some sort of date value where you can reference a date value in your report. In this case, it's the modified date. And this is all time. So in other words, this is showing me all records based on the modified date. And you'll see things like term not equal to blank, emission status not equal to X, Y, and Z. But what I wanted to spend some further time on is how can we really make these filters more robust. And there's something I want to point out here, and that is that if you click this drop down, it will give you two options when building a filter. So the first one is you can add filter logic. So the filter logic in this example could be that I have 1 and 2, but if I wanted to make a or 3 in this statement, or 4 or 5, you kind of get the idea there. I could simply add that in to this kind of criteria here. So that's one option that you have as far as adding logic and or statements to your filter. And then something else you can do is you can add what's called a cross filter. So what is a cross filter? So a cross filter is looking outside of this report for a related object that you can filter further upon. So for example, you'll notice that this here shows you applications with activities. So activities is a related object to applications. So if you wanted to select activities, hit apply, this now will filter this down with only those that have a related activity. So you can see here that you can have the activities. Now you can even filter further on here where you could have something like the activity status is not complete. So if you wanted to, or not started, if you wanted to have a further dive down on this where you can further filter on it, this will allow you to segment the data even further. In this case, it yields no results, but the idea here is that you can take related objects to the main two objects in your report and then further narrow down the results. Tasks and activities, I would say, are probably the most common example that we see. Other things I just want to mention here are related to dates. Okay, so right now we have the status modified date all time. I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of this cross filter as well, so we don't have this anymore. But as we go through this, I wanted to show you this help article here by Salesforce that I would bookmark and save. I'll make sure to link it in the documentation, or I'll link it related to the video on our help site. But you can see here that these are all what are called relative dates in Salesforce searching. So when you're dealing with time values, any sort of date values, so maybe that's the application date, any sort of custom date field, or the out of the box fields, you'll be able to really narrow down what this means. So for a common example that I see that sometimes trips people up is they may want to write a report that says, show me all applicants this week. Well, what they don't realize is that it basically starts that Sunday through Saturday. So if they wanted to see the previous Saturday, then that's not included. So what's maybe a better approach is you can go down and say days. So the last 7 days might actually be a more accurate reflection of what the information you're trying to obtain. But it's really important that as you think about, the parameters in which you're trying to segment your data, all of this stuff is very, very helpful in narrowing those down. So just as an example, if I wanted to add a filter here of, let's say, admit date or date admit, what you'll notice here is that I have the operator of equals. I could say greater than or less than. But what if I picked equals here, I can pick a date specifically, or it gives me an option to use what's called a relative date. And this is the list that we just referred to. So if I wanted to say the date admit was the last, and then the N in that is just the number we want, so 30 days, and I hit apply, I don't know that this is going to yield anything in our sample data, but the idea here is that you can quickly reference the last 30 days, the last 60 days, the last 90 days, and it allows you to quickly scale up your data to really get some helpful insights. So just really common examples that we see as we work with filters are the date admit here for the last 30 days. If I wanted this application report to be, applications by term and status, and I wanted to save as, so basically clone this, and I wanted to make this applicants last 30 days, right? I can now save this. So now I have my last 30 days. But watch this. What I'm able to do now is that even though it doesn't have any results in this example, if I went in now back to my filters, change this instead of 30 days, say 90 days, I apply, and I save as well. Now I have applicant submitted last 90 days. So you can see once you have the report structure set up that you want, this can go with any date field. So created this week, created last 30 days, created last 90 days, created the last year, last month, etc. You can quickly build a number of reports that you can quickly filter based upon these pieces of criteria. Right? So if I remove this criteria, this might show a few more results. But the overall idea here is that this is going to show me the applicant submitted in the last 90 days, and I can continue to scale accordingly. A couple other things that are just helpful to know related to filters is depending on the type of filter that you're using, there's this filter operator reference where whether it's less than, greater than, equal than, those come into play if you're using a number field or a date field. Not equal to is a really powerful one, and contains. Just keep in mind that contains is not case sensitive. So if you search for ID, then the ID would be like found in Idaho, for example, because it's not, it's case insensitive in the search. So as you kind of go through these, this is a really good resource to further segment your data and really drill down. But the main takeaway I want to make sure you understand is that once you kind of get your initial report set up, the groupings set up that you would like, you can quickly just tweak one or two criteria, especially around the date fields, to scale and build multiple applications very quickly. And those can then be added to a dashboard and visualized. So in our next 5-Minute Friday, we will actually be spending some time talking about visualization of data, how we can put this all into a single dashboard and segment that, as dashboards allow you to have a few additional ways that you can see your data in one spot. So with that, please dive in, test it out, and hopefully that you found this helpful. All right, so that was it. So we got to jump into filters, review how you could use cross filters and how you can use certain operators, including relative date values. Again, the benefit of this is that you can quickly scale and save as your reports to build multiple versions of the same report, but just filtered by a parameter such as the last 30 days, last 90 days, last, et cetera. So this is a great way to get your foundations built and then scale up from there. So hopefully you found this helpful. Next week, we'll be diving into visualization as well as dashboards. And so stay tuned for that in the next 5 Minute Friday. But with that, hope you have a great weekend and talk to you soon.